In terms of whether evangelicals are going to drift or move sharply away from Trump, I think that's increasingly likely. Not because they necessarily think Trump is a horrible person, even if they can get over all the antics and the tweeting but part of this is you just don't want to hear about paying off a porn star. This is not something that resonates with born-again evangelical Christians who love the Bible. That's just not the way they see their future president. Donald J. Trump, the former president of the United States, has been indicted. How will evangelical Christians react? Hi, this is Joel Rosenberg in Jerusalem, host of the Rosenberg Report on TBN with a YouTube exclusive for our Rosenberg Report YouTube channel. Listen, this is a very dramatic development in recent days, right? The indictment of a former president of the United States. We've never seen this happen ever in American history. A sitting American president hasn't been indicted. A former American president has never been indicted until now. And as best as we know, as I record this, there are more than 30 charges in this indictment. Some have said 34. But as I'm recording this, we don't have the specifics of what's actually in the indictment. That is sealed. So we're going to know more, and we can analyze more in the days ahead. But already, from the moment it happened, I've been texted and tweeted questions from all over the country, all over the world, actually. How are Christians, evangelical Christians in particular, going to react to the Trump indictment? Now, there's really, I would say, three different camps that evangelicals are going to break into, okay? Let's make it simple up front, and then I'll explain each camp. Camp one is going to be the loyalists to Trump, people who say, look, it's not that we agree with every single thing that Donald Trump says or does or has done in the past, but we're with him. We love his policies. We love what he did for the United States, for the pro-life movement, for evangelical Christians, for religious freedom, for Israel, and we're going to stick with them come what may, through thick and thin. These are the loyalists. There's a second group, which are the people that are saying, I can't do it anymore. Maybe I liked what Donald Trump did for the evangelicals, for the pro-life movement, for Israel, for religious freedom, for the country, for the economy, for everything else. But I just can't do this anymore. So this is camp number two. Those who are losing altitude when it comes to Trump. Those who are ready to break away. And then the third camp would be the undecideds, people who feel torn. They love what Trump does in terms of policy, what he has stood for, what he stands for now in terms of policy and where he wants to take the country. But they're just not sure, and there's going to be an undecided camp. Now, I haven't seen specific polling on this yet, but I'm sure in the days ahead we will see it. When we do, we'll test this theory. But having swum in the evangelical waters for most of my adult life, more than 30 some years, almost 35 years in Washington and here in Jerusalem, I'm telling you, this is how it's going to break out. And let me tell you why. So there are the loyalists, right? And these are the people that say, listen, I'm with Trump. I didn't think that every tweet, every speech, every thing that he did was something that I had to embrace. But I wasn't voting for him to be my pastor or the head of my Bible college or seminary or Sunday school class. I was voting for him to be the president. And compared to Hillary Clinton or compared to Joe Biden, for this group, there was absolutely no question Trump was the right guy. And even though there's been a lot of turmoil and a lot of trouble and a lot of attack against the president, that loyalty has mostly never wavered. They feel like he's still the strongest guy in the field, strongest man in the party, and the guy who is most likely to be able to win in 2024 and continue on or pick up with the policies that he advanced so successfully in their eyes during the 2020 to 2020 or 2016 to 2020 era, right? So these are the loyalists, and they're going to stick with Trump almost no matter what. There is the undecideds, and that's obvious, and we don't need to talk about that. These are people who just feel torn because of where they are, and because of what Trump is doing. The whole concept of the president of the United States having to defend himself in a trial, or at least a court, a legal proceeding about paying off a porn star and possibly 2 extramarital affairs. Look, he's innocent until proven guilty, but I'm just saying, for evangelicals, for whom character is a big deal, right? For what we learn from the scriptures, what we teach our children, what we were taught by our parents and grandparents, biblical moral character is a big deal. And even if you say, okay, but that we're not voting for our Sunday school teacher or the pastor or priest of our church, whatever, but there's going to be an undecided camp who's just not sure that this is something that they want to deal with. The key challenge for the president is not the undecideds. There is a possibility that he'll be able to win the undecideds back into his camp if he gets through this trial. If he gets, if the charges prove frivolous, if he proves that a lot of these people are lying, Michael Cohen and others, his former lawyer, then he'll be able to win a lot of these undecideds back potentially, right? The real challenge for President Trump is this group of people that are losing their confidence in him. Now, that breaks into 2 categories, right? One part is the never-Trumpers. Small, but a significant element from 2016. It was slightly larger, the never-Trumper movement among evangelicals in the 2020 campaign. We did on All Israel News an exit poll, and we used John McLaughlin of McLaughlin and Associates, a nationally famous, world famous actual pollster who works mostly for Republican candidates and so forth. He also works for Netanyahu, but he has been Donald Trump's pollster for many, many years, and we contracted with him through All Israel News to understand the exit polls in 2020. We didn't know that Trump was going to lose, but when it looked like he did, and obviously that was very controversial, but we looked at how did Trump fare among self-identified, born-again evangelical Christians. And what we found in 2020 was that he had lost 2 points, 2 percentage points, right? So in 2016, Trump won 80% of the evangelical vote, okay? In 2020, he won just barely over 78%. I think it was like 78.1 or 78.2. Okay, so he lost approximately 2 percentage points. Why was that important? From Trump's perspective, he's like, I have the overwhelming support of the evangelicals. And that was still true. But in a world of about 60 million evangelical Christians in the United States, when you lose 2 percentage points, that's a lot of people. When you lose 2 percentage points of 60 million, in a very tight race, highly contested, and fraught with all kinds of allegations of election day irregularities and even theft and fraud and so forth, those 2 percentage points may very well have proven decisive, that by losing 2 percentage points of evangelicals, that may have in fact by itself cost Trump the election. Now, why was he losing that? I talked to many evangelicals throughout the 2020 campaign cycle, and they said to me, I know that he's appointed all these pro-life justices, and I know that he has helped overturn Roe v. Wade, or is about to at that point. And I know that he's been great on Israel and the economy and, all these other issues. But they said, I just can't take him in his character, in the way he tweets, the way he deals with his political enemies, the way he deals with his political allies. For some evangelicals, it was just something they just didn't feel comfortable with, and they decided, I can't do it. And it was interesting to talk to them, because no matter what you said to them, they said, there's no argument that you can make that I'm going to vote for Trump. And if you said, yeah, but what about Joe Biden? He's going to be, aggressively pro-abortion, and he's going to be aggressively pro-gay rights, and he's going to be aggressively, trying to get into an insane deal with Iran, and he's going to deal, he's moving towards socialism as opposed to free market capitalism. And in my conversations with evangelicals all over the country who were in this unique camp, it didn't matter. There was nothing that I found, no argument that would persuade this group of people to say, okay, you're right, I'm going to vote for Trump even though I'm not a big fan. So the Never Trumper movement, which of course in 2016 wasn't only evangelicals, but it expanded into this extra segment of evangelicals that said, I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. no matter what the consequences. I just, in good conscience, can't vote for Trump. That was a problem, and I think it's very possible that if that loss of evangelicals is just even a small amount, it either cost Trump the election or it helped contribute to Trump losing in 2020. Okay, now that group has expanded. By every evidence that I see, that group has expanded for several reasons. First, the way Trump handled his defeat, or at least the challenge, right? If Trump had said, according to these evangelicals that I'm talking to, that have moved into this, I can't do it, I'm not going to do it, camp, and that number is growing. One of the reasons they say is because, look, yeah, maybe the election was stolen, or at least it was handled very poorly, and okay, maybe it wasn't proven in court, but the way Trump basically treated himself as a victim and wouldn't let it go and say, okay, I disagree with these results, but I'm going to come back in 2024 and I'm going to fight, and just let it, accept the results, even though you didn't like them, and come back and get ready to fight again. There were many evangelicals, I can't put a number on it yet, that felt uncomfortable with that argument that he just kept saying it's being stolen. I'm not saying there aren't other evangelicals that totally agree. The key here is analyzing how evangelicals are reacting to Donald Trump. And I'm saying it's important for those of you who are pro-Trump to hear that there are people who have been pro-Trump in terms of his policies, who, because of his character, because of his tweets, because of his public persona, are moving into the I can't do it camp, okay? Not into the undecided camp, into the I'm not going there again, I'm looking for an alternative, okay? Now, there was another reason, how Trump handled Pence, okay? Mike Pence was the most visible evangelical conservative ally of the president for 4 years, right? 5, really, if you count the 2016 campaign and then the 2016 to 2020, presidential term. Pence was the leader of the evangelicals supporting Trump. But when Trump turned on Pence, this really soured a group of evangelicals who, again, think Trump did a wonderful job in office, but from election day forward through January 6th and beyond have really said, I can't do it any longer. I'm looking for an alternative. Now add to this indictment. Now, in terms of this specific indictment, we're actually seeing Trump's poll numbers jump. In mid-February, he was in the low 40s in terms of Republicans saying that who they were looking for to be the nominee in 2024. Right? If you look at the real clear politics average of all the different polling that's been done, in mid-February, Trump was in the low 40s. Today, he's around 47, 48%. So he's jumped about 5 or 6 points when you take the averages. And in some polls, he's up over 50%. Why? Because all Republicans, or many Republicans, not all obviously, are moving back to him for the moment, saying this is a political witch hunt, this is a totally unfair prosecution, he's being indicted for something that nobody else gets indicted for, and we're defending Trump not because we necessarily are going to vote for him, but because we just think he's being treated completely unfairly. And I will add myself in this. I think he's being treated terribly. Nobody else has ever been indicted on something like this. Now, again, when we see all the details, we'll have to sort it through. But look, we've had 2 trials to impeach the president. He was indicted. He was impeached twice in the House of Representatives by the Democrats. It never went to a conviction in the Senate. And essentially, the Democrats just won't let it go. They're looking for any possible scrap, trying to pin anything on him, rather than just deal with him mano a mano in the political sphere. So yes, I'm one of these people who say, look, this is just a ridiculous set of charges to the extent that I've seen them so far. And again, we'll analyze more later. But in terms of whether evangelicals are going to drift or move sharply away from Trump, I think that's increasingly likely. Not because they necessarily think Trump is a horrible person, even if they can get over all the antics and the tweeting, but part of this is you just don't want to hear about paying off a porn star. This is not something that resonates with born-again evangelical Christians who love the Bible. That's just not the way they see their future president. But more importantly, or let's say, not more importantly, as importantly, the question is growing, can Trump actually win the nomination? Yes, he can. Can he win the general election? Will he be able to pull independents and conservative Democrats towards him? That's the question. And that's why you see all these other Republicans either getting into the Republican primary race or considering it strongly, right? Because they're thinking if the party concludes Trump is wonderful, but for whatever reasons you add to the next sentence of but this, but that, the question is, can he win a general election in 2024? And Republicans, evangelicals in particular, want to win in 2024. They don't want this assault on their biblical values to continue. So there's a lot to follow here, and we're going to continue to track this through the Rosenberg Report. I'll be talking about it on the main show. We'll be tracking it, of course, in a regular, active way on All Israel News, and not just Trump, but who are the other actors, who are people going to be jumping into the Republican nomination process, and will any Democrat challenge Joe Biden? That will be interesting too. So keep tracking the Rosenberg Report, the main Thursday night and Saturday night show, and of course the YouTube exclusives here on the YouTube channel for Rosenberg Report, and All Israel News, and I'll keep you up to speed. In the meantime, I'm Joel Rosenberg in Jerusalem for the Rosenberg Report.